Welcome back to the channel, survivors. Today's guide is something many players ask about, but very few actually master: how to read and properly analyze battle reports in state of survival. Understanding what happens inside a report can completely change the way you build marches, choose heroes and prepare for competitive modes. For this example, we will analyze a real battle report from the Immortal Arena event. One of the players asked me to walk through a report step by step and explain what actually determines the outcome. The goal is simple. After watching this guide, you should be able to open any battle report and quickly understand why you won or lost. In this particular fight, my opponent attacked me. Because of that, she had the freedom to choose her formation and approach the battle exactly the way she wanted. But this is already an important detail when analyzing reports. The attacking player usually controls the tactical setup. Another important factor is the opponent's account strength. My rival is a rally leader, and as you can clearly see in this report, both Heather Mason and Selena are fully upgraded. The frames around their portraits indicate maximum development levels, which means they are operating at their full potential. To make things even more interesting, my opponent attacked using the Resilience style, which directly counters the control style that my march was built around. In theory, the matchup should heavily favor my opponent. However, despite the counter, my march actually performed very well. So the big question becomes, what influenced this surprisingly strong result? Let's start with the hero statistic section of the report. Here, the numbers clearly show that I am at the massive disadvantage, losing by more than 30% in raw hero stats. The reason is quite simple. My opponent, Lauren, has heroes at their special operative level, and all of their genetic links are upgraded to gold tier, the highest one. On my side, only one hero has a gold genetic link, and to be completely honest, that particular skill is not among the strongest in the game. So, purely from a hero statistic perspective, this battle should have been extremely one-sided. Now, let's look at the Behemoth combat section. Unfortunately, I also lost here. My opponent's MK1 Behemoth has 47 skills fully upgraded, which gives it a real clear advantage in the direct combat impact. However, this is where something interesting appears in the report. I actually win the air combat phase, and in my opinion, this is one of the key factors behind of the strong performance of my march, which was otherwise expected to be completely overwhelmed. Now it's time to reveal what I like to call my secret weapon, Tempest arms. Since the introduction of Stella in the last season, Tempest arm has been absolutely devastating on the battlefield. The synergy between these mechanics creates massive damage spikes, and in many fights, it literally tears through enemy troops. This is a great example of why meta shifts in the game matter so much. A single new hero or mechanic can dramatically change the performance of existing strategies. Moving on to pet combat, the situation becomes even more difficult for me. My opponent is using a second generation Fennec Fox, which already puts me at a disadvantage. What's interesting here is that even without activating its ultra ability, the second generation Fennec Fox is capable of producing higher numbers than my Doberman that has 5 active abilities. This clearly demonstrates the power gap between pet generation of pet quality. Newer pets simply have a higher statistic potential. A very similar situation happens with the Sandcat. Even when it's not fully upgraded, it still generates higher damage numbers thanks to its stronger base potential. In fact, with just 2 abilities, it already surpasses everything my kangaroo managed to produce. And once the remaining abilities activate, the entire dynamic of the battlefield changes. Now let's move to the Mech combat section, which contains another interesting detail. Both my Arc Varden and Juggernaut actually produce higher numbers than their counterparts. On paper, this should be good news for my side. However, everything my infantry and rider mechs manage to achieve gets completely overshadowed by the powerful abilities of Cyclone. Cyclone is the hunter type mech designed for the Berserker class, and in my opinion, it is currently extremely overpowered. Even after just a few upgrades, it already becomes one of the most impactful mechs in the game. Its ability scaling is simply massive, and in battles like this one, it can completely dominate the mech phase. This is also why many players are currently discussing whether Cyclone should receive a balance adjustment in future updates. And I'm in. Finally, let's address a question I receive very often from players. Many people ask, why do units at the same tier like T12 troops with fully upgraded skills sometimes produce different numbers in battle reports? The answer lies in troop lifetime and skill activation timing. Even if both sides use the same tier and maxed skills, the units may remain alive for different duration during the battle. Because of that, some units have more opportunities to trigger their active abilities. A great example is Laura's infantry skill. In this report, fewer units were protected by that ability simply because there was no need for it to activate. The infantry health never dropped below the required threshold, which means the potion refinement effect was never triggered. This is exactly why reading reports carefully is so important. The raw numbers alone never tell the full story. You need to understand when and why certain abilities activate. And that's the key takeaway from today's guide.